Also, he said another thing to me, that his mom had that, right? His mom was a narcissist too, and the father was a codependent. So he used to see the mom abusing the father, and he would look and see and think, I don't want to be like him, weak like him.
That weakness. Yeah. Oh my
I'm
God.
going to be strong like she is, right? And then it was another thing that he said made him follow that path, right? Because he see that worked, right?
That's
Somehow.
the saddest fucking part. I'm sorry for swearing so much, but it's like, it's just so sad to me, especially now where it's like, I still can't rationalize that because, yeah, once I changed everything about myself, I mean, I'm being invited on podcasts. Like, people love me. People, wanted to date me. It's like, how can that not tell your brain, like, this is what you had to do? It almost reinforces, like, yes, you needed to literally abandon your past self. They were that worthless. They were that bad. And it just doubles down because there's another part of it where you're super bitter. And I want to get into this because bitterness, I feel like, leads to lack of empathy, at least for me. But like, you get bitter at everyone else that can just show up as themselves. And they can just be present and be liked. And it's like that authenticity, or like seeing other people connect, is so triggering, or it can be very, very triggering.
Now, see if that makes sense to you, because I look at the spiritual side too. Because once that happens, when you give up, right, you abandon yourself, like your child inner, right?
Yeah.
Also the light, because we all made, I believe, we all made by one creator. Is only one creator, right? So we all made as his image. So once you give up on that, the light that was there from the creator is also not there anymore.
Oh man, yeah. It's been a journey. I'm a spiritual person. I wouldn't say really any particular religion, but I've seen my own version of what you're saying, which is like, I am a musician, for example. I created music at the height of my disorder. My music was hollow, and it was just, it didn't, looking back on it, it was just so disconnected, and it wasn't like me.
Yeah.
It wasn't like my light, like there was nothing there. It was just like, how can I make a pop hit? It sucks the life out of everything. Which is one of the reasons I wanted to heal. Cause like, it's sad, but some people never, for some reason, they can never become self-aware, and they really live the rest of their lives like this, and they find themselves alone, and they realize they've lived an entire life, I'm sure at some point,
Yes.
just empty, or like just disconnected. And it's just like, that needs to happen to less people. It's fucked up.
Yes. And also, while I was talking to him, I kind of sympathized with him right away, because he was super honest. Like, he came to me and he said that up front, Cris, I am narcissist. I find out, and this is what happened. And I was like, wow, I need to learn more. So I appreciate that, right? So then I
Yes.
told him how I see him, because as I'm talking to you, I feel you. I see you. I see the beauty. I see the good side, right? But I believe, because you give up, that's how deep it is. See if it makes sense to you. But for me, after studying all of these years, right? So once you give up on yourself, right? The child that, like, you garbage, I'm not gonna be this garbage, right? So the child is there. Help me, desperate, like, help me, help me. But you don't want to touch, you don't get close to that child, because you're gonna have to face what you thought was a garbage, but it wasn't a garbage. Never.
No, I'm still split. I don't know. I'm at the part in healing where I understand what people want me to do. It's this narrative where you're like, oh, you have to heal your inner self. I don't know. I'm at the point where I'm still trying to figure it out, because I think there's another aspect. What you're kind of describing is like, oh, there's a child trapped in there, right? Behind like a closed door or something. I almost wonder, due to how many years that has been repressed, if all of that is not just very fragmented. Because we're going to go into this, but the reason narcissists can switch up so fast, like rage and then I love you and then like whatever else, fragmentation, so like I feel like that reflects the inner self, even if like pieces of that young child or the inner child is still there.
Yeah.
I don't know if it is. I don't know what that looks like. There's a part of me that doesn't want to find it there. So there's that, you know, like where I would just rather create a new inner self.
I believe so, because I had friends, close friends, Tessa, that I remember one of them, like the feeling I have when I felt them from the inside out, right? That she know what was right and wrong, right? Everybody does. It almost felt like she didn't want to do that, but it was like kind of stronger than her, and she did it. But she felt bad, kind of shameful, kind of like,
Yeah.
I wish I didn't do that, but at the same time, the power and control, the need of control. And I remember one time I didn't behave the way she expected me. So she had a boyfriend, right? She broke up. And then I respect her. I went to her son's birthday party. So the guy was there, the father, right? Because he was the father of her. So, but he was with the new girlfriend, right? So she comes and say hi to me. I say hi to her, and she talks to me for a few minutes because I brought a cake, and she said, "Oh, my cousin does cakes and everything." Me as a Chris, right? Myself.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna just say, "Hey, get away," because she didn't like her. But at the same time, I'm not being fake friend to her. I'm not being because I didn't give her my phone. I didn't tell her, "Hey, add me on Instagram." No, my friend was her, the other one, right?
Yeah.
And but she got it so, and then she started telling all other friends that we had in common. See, Chris is there. She's talking to and everybody started looking at me like I was doing something wrong and something bad. I see years later go by, and she's still with that inside of her. So I went and talked to her. Let's resolve this here now, because for me, the most important part was to be friends again and get over this thing, right? Once I start talking to her, it makes sense, right? Because I was explaining to her, I accept you the way you are. When you do wrong things and right things, I still your friend. So why you cannot accept me the way I am? I didn't do anything to hurt you. So she see the other people, friends in common, start agreeing with what I said. She got really mad. My goodness, that's I was afraid. She came close to me, looking my eyes like really close. She almost told me to get out of her house in a nice way. And at that moment, I said, wow, she doesn't want to be friends again. She want to be in the power and control. And that pushed me away from her, you know. But it was like, wow. And I know she was abused from her own father when she was a child. And I don't know what else that happened to her, but I still feel the good side on her. I did had moments with her that she did had empathy for a second, but she did.
There's little like windows of it. I've experienced that myself. I always say that like when I'm in the least amount of pain and when I'm the least triggered, it's the easiest to be like kind. I believe that genuinely. I mean, I have this friend group right now.
Yes.
There's like 3 narcissists in there, all diagnosed. Like I've seen the kindness. I've seen like that ability. It's just it's behind a million walls, and honestly it can be very confusing for people because like, you know, it seems like, you know, your friend or your partner or whatever is reacting out of like nothing or nowhere, and it's confusing. But unfortunately, I feel like for people with NPD, the trauma, there's so much trauma there that it's like you don't just have like 3 triggers, you have like a million. So you are constantly going around in life like able to be set off by like one of these millions of triggers. And it's for me, I used to just be constantly angry and constantly bitter and constantly stressed and constantly exhausted because of all.
Do you think you can put it in words so I can understand how what type of trauma? Because I had trauma too, and I was like, I had traumas too in my life.
Yeah, I feel like we all have. If we're all here, I'm gonna be honest, everybody watching this probably has trauma. I mean, you don't end up with people with NPD either if you don't need healing.
But for me, what kind of trauma that is so deep, you know, that I'm trying to understand what would be so strong and so deep, what could happen to someone at the point that they just separate themselves from, you know, who they are.
For me, I felt from the age of 4 like I was already in a very cold world and I didn't know why. And I ended up finding out that it was because, for a big part, both of my parents struggled with empathy in various ways. They're not narcissists, they're not bad people, but they had their own childhood trauma. And as the generational trauma cycle goes, my mother could not be present with me for any of my emotions because it would make her fall apart. She couldn't, like, apparently, in order to be a mother that could hold herself together, she had to remove herself. My father would just shut down super quick. I feel like he may have had his own thing going on. I don't know. But it was that coldness where, like, you realize there's nobody there who really sees you in your home. Nobody who guides you, gives you a map to your own emotions, where you're just feeling things, and, like, your parents can't even see that. They can't even see you. They don't explain life to you. They don't tell you, like, what you're experiencing, or, like, it's that mixed with, I think, a mentality of, like, just go do it. There's, like, a sense of you know, failure or success, and then unfortunately there's another, like, a lot of narcissists, when they would go to school, or like people who end up going to school, there's no safe space there either. There's a lot of abuse. So you have, in essence, you end up completely alone. Like,
this is important, Tessa. This is really important what you said, because I had some friends and some people that I had a relationship that they had a lot of bullying in school. Like what you're saying.
And I think it's a mix between, like, the natural temperament of the child. Every child is born with a personality and a natural, you know, they have things, they have go-tos that they'll want to, like, if they're upset, some children will withdraw, others will get, like, overtly mad, others will, like, try to whine or whatever. Like, that's the natural defense mechanism in each child. And that, plus the type of trauma, plus how long, like, it can end up in, like, an assortment of things. Yes. And yeah, for people with NPD, I really feel like there is a sense of, I am alone. There is nobody coming. There's no parent. There's no guardian. There's no sibling. There's no peers that understand. Nobody. Like, in the end, you only have yourself. And that's when it kind of sets in, where you're like, I only have me. And if that continues for a long, long time, as you grow and you're still not getting your emotions explained, but rather you're getting them shamed or, like, criticized, all this trauma just builds up, and then school's hard and there's humiliation there. And you just find yourself, I remember shutting off not only from myself, but from others, where, like, I became bitter. I realized nobody ever cared. That's what it felt like. So why should I give a single damn? That's how it goes in your head. Why should I care about other people? Why should I put myself out there for other people? They're just going to betray me anyway. They're just going to take what I want. I need to get what I want. And that's where, like, the power comes in, because you don't trust people, you know, like, and it's such a lonely place to be. And I'm trying to unlearn all those things. And it has been so hard, because, like, I have to learn for the first time to trust, to try and trust people.
You talk about this part that there was nobody there, you felt alone. But what about, how did you feel about yourself? Like, did you feel like, I don't want to be this garbage anymore?
Oh,
like,
yeah, my past self. Yeah. I don't consider myself my past self anymore. What were you going to say? Sorry.
Yeah, no, I want to understand that part. If you can explain to me a little bit more. How did you, somebody told you that, or you believe that because since nobody's there for you, so I'm not worth it?
Both.
Okay.
I mean, so I feel like my past self was in a lot of different scenarios where I think they had to watch other women getting chosen. Like, oh God, how do I even explain it? I mean, I seriously felt from the get-go, like, as I said, when I was 4 years old, you already feel so alone. And then that feeling continues, and you kind of just see everyone living their life, and you can't really break through. It's like being on the outside of a window pane of glass, and everybody else is inside, and it's all warm, and you're out there in the cold. And yeah, you see people getting loved, you see people getting adored. I believe my past self was ugly and embarrassing and a lot of other things. And in my perspective, yeah, I had to leave them behind for a reason. I felt like they were not good enough to get any attention. That's why they were constantly invisible. I don't know. I'm curious, like, where'd you want to go with that?
I had a friend that I remember, she was here and she was taking pictures of me for one thing that I was going to go. And then I was making like jokes, and she was taking the picture for me, and she saw me smiling, and she looked at me and she said that to me, you are like this. And the other friend in common we had in common, right? She said, and she is like that too. And she said, I am not. At the same time, I had a feeling like she wanted to feel and be like that, but at the same time she was angry about that, right? And
Oh my God. Yeah. It's so complicated because for me, it's like a mix of like, God, I wonder what it would have been like to just grow up and just be able to like have a sense of identity that you were born with, that everyone accepts, and then just be happy or like whatever. But then there's also like satisfaction, and where you're like, you know what, like everyone else is kind of on the ground right over here. They can't even dream of what it's like to be up here. You know, like there's this like, there's the loneliness aspect of it, where you kind of, you know, as much as you feel like you're above it all, you also feel sad, like deep down, like very lonely, very,
yes,
it's a loneliness that is not easy to explain. It's almost like, if you can just imagine, like, I don't know, like being in a coffee shop and you're surrounded by people chatting and talking and connecting, and like I'll be in these scenarios and it feels like my entire world is just spinning around me, and like I'm tethered to nothing and tethered to nobody, and you know, I'm just listening to everyone else connect, and it's just such a, there's that aspect of it. But there's also a, well, at least, you know, I'm rare, I'm special, like, you know, like they could not comprehend me, you know, this and that. It's so many things.
I know. This is a protection, right? That you need to, otherwise, because when you start thinking like that, you start going to the vulnerable place. And then to protect you, say, no, I'm different, I'm better, you know, like we do
so
that too.
Oh my God, so much of my grandiosity has just died. I've when I said ego death, I really have been through multiple collapses. I mean, it wasn't just one, that was the original one, but since then I've had multiple like further collapses.
Tell me a little bit more about that, Tessa. Like, what kind of drug you say you used to use? I never heard about it.
So psychedelics are a big category. I've both used shrooms. I've used marijuana, which I definitely consider a psychedelic. It's underestimated how much that can affect people. But that's not even what caused all of my collapses. I mean, I actually ended up taking shrooms as well, and I've done 30 plus shroom trips.
What is it?
It's like mushrooms, like.
Oh yeah, I had a boyfriend in Brazil that he used that. Oh my gosh.
Oh man, they're life-changing.
No, he told me this is hallucinogen. How you call that?
Yeah. It's a